Here we have, brand new in the box, King G-Shock, GX56. This is the larger kind of standard G-Shock box now. You'll see for a lot of different models. And you'll see the full model number here on the back. It's the GX56-1ADR, 221 module. And if we open this thing up, this one comes with an extra little pamphlet from Casio for solar models. There's some extra things you need to know. Occasionally, if it's been in the box for a long time, it might not be fully charged anymore, and you might need to sit it out in some bright sunlight or under a good CFL light bulb for a few hours to get it charged up. You want it to be at least medium for the full functionality, but obviously the H for high on the charge level indicator. It goes for any tough solar G-Shock. So you have to be a little patient. Get that question a lot on the site. People asking why it's taking so long. It can, especially if it's in the winter and you're not getting really bright sunlight. If you don't have a good window you can put it in. It can take anywhere from a couple hours to who knows, maybe 20, 30 hours sometimes if it's not ideal conditions. So you just want to make sure that the G-Shock never gets too hot while it's doing that. Usually won't kill it, but it's just not good for it. It's not recommended. So as long as it stays cool, you can leave it out there in front of a good light source for about as long as you want. And usually though, after a couple of days you're still having a problem. You could have a bad battery, but most of the time that's all it takes. And of course we've got the big manual here for the 3221 module. Pretty good size. And inside this box is a flap to lift up. Actually get to the 10 with the G-Shock. And this is the classic G-Shock 10. It's been around for quite a while now. Layer of foam. And here's the G-Shock. Center piece of foam. Wrapper. And the tag here. Again with the full model number. So this thing really is a monster. There's a reason why they call it King Jock. It's the largest G-Shock Casio's ever released. And in photos online, it's hard to really get an idea for the scale of this thing. I'm going to do another video comparing it to other common G-Shock models. But the only concern with this one is it just might be too big for some people. It's really just ginormous. And it's well scaled though. Unless you really compare it to something, it's hard to tell how big it is. The band has a nice solid feel to it. Here it is, next to a Rise band, which is not a small G-Shock, and this thing just dwarfs it. Yeah, it's very thick. It's very high off the wrist. So I'll take a closer look here. And you can see, yeah, it's tough solar. And it has some extra shock absorption technology that's been implemented in this one. With the Alpha Gel is the trademark name for it. It's kind of a space-age material that offers extra protection, which this one's so large though, it'd be interesting to see, do some real testing to see if it actually is tougher than the average G-Shock. They're all, rated for pretty incredible circumstances. So this one though might actually be tougher as a result of that and the size. They just have more room to work with. But it's hard to say for sure. I haven't seen a good tough test yet, and these are ones I'm keeping new to give away, so I'm not going to be doing anything too rough with it to find out yet, but maybe someday we'll get an answer to that question. So you can see here, it has a thick double band with these textured little divots in it, indented on the side along the full length. shock resist raised text there in red. This one's just all matte black with the red detailing you see there. And it does say mud resist, which is interesting up here on the top. It's not, technically not a Mudman. Usually you see that on the Mudman model. It's interesting that Casio decided to do that. Again, little indentions on the side, and this one has a really heavy-duty clasp. This metal clasp you can feel it has a bit more of a weight to it than the usual stainless steel one, and it has a different finish as well. So I suspect it's a different metal, maybe. I'm not sure what it is, but it goes with the overall look, and kind of has a well-balanced feel to it. Back of this one says Casio Japan. And you can see the buttons on the side here, which really just are covers. There's actually smaller, more regular buttons underneath here. And when you're pressing on this kind of flexible resin bit, it just makes the contact with the button inside there. So it's got quite a bit of protection around the outside. It keeps dirt and stuff from getting in there. Should offer even more protection than usual. And I guess that kind of goes with the whole mud resist. It is similar to the Mudman as far as these button designs, but essentially it's its own series. And there you can see the stainless steel case back. Only a little bit of it actually exposed. And it's got a very solid feel overall, but it's not that heavy. It's, I think, about 87 grams, which, for a watch, that's really not too bad. There's definitely some lighter, but it's just not that dense. That's the thing. It's nice, so it's comfortable, I imagine, to wear for long term. It's not going to feel on the wrist as big as it looks. It's really just about the presence of this large watch. And let's see here if we go through the different modes. There's of course the regular timekeeping mode. This one has a negative display. And let's see here. The buttons aren't too hard. I imagine they'll loosen up a little bit. But there's a little bit more give, so you do have to, since there is the, you have to flex this and then get into the button inside and contact. You do have to kind of really mean to push it a bit, but it doesn't hurt the fingers like the G9000 Mudman does sometimes. Here we are in alarm mode. 5 alarms. And then we got the stopwatch. It's a 24-hour stopwatch, which is nice. And a 24-hour countdown timer as well. And back to regular timekeeping mode. So nothing special with this one. It's basically just an oversized version of the 5600 models you see, just with solar. There is an atomic version that was released, the GX56. There's 3 models that came out in Japan only, but here in the US, the GX56 is the only option available here. And the good news is, though, it has a much lower price, as is typical for the export versions with non-atomic. They're about half the price of the Japanese one. The retail price here is $150, which for the G-Shock, the amount of G-Shock you're getting for the money, it's pretty good. And of course, street prices are a little bit lower depending where you shop. So overall, this one, yeah, I mean, it's great. What can you say about it? It's it's just a supersized version of the original G-Shock form factor. It's these button covers here in the resin. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's got a lot of resin. I guess that could be the only complaint. There's not much metal in this thing, which keeps it light, but it should hold up well. We'll see here. Sometimes these flanges that cover the buttons on older models, like the original Mudman, those would get problematic after a couple years. If the resin was getting worn out, those could flake off. These seem to be pretty well built, though. I don't think you can see they're kind of indented slightly there. That should help prevent that from happening. But time will tell. And with anything, I think that would be the only possible problem. Is just there's so much resin going on here, and the parts maybe are possibly more expensive to replace. I haven't checked, but it wouldn't surprise me, just because this bezel has to be twice the size of a regular 5600 bezel. So I don't know if it's twice the cost, but it's probably a little bit more. And yeah, might want to think about that. It's always good to have extra resin parts for models that you think, are going to see some really serious abuse, just from exposure to, sunlight and, sweat and just, things G-Shocks are used to taking. That's really the only thing you can criticize about them. And sometimes it might, not be for 10 years or so. So it's not that big a deal. It's just the parts ever do become discontinued. For a model I'm going to wear a lot, I often pick up some spare parts just in case, so I don't have to worry about it. I know I already have them. So there we go, the King G-Shock GX56. Thanks for taking a look.